In the age of the Empire, the galaxy believed the Sith were extinct save for the two rulers. But in the shadows far from Coruscant's spires and Korriban's tombs, fragments of the old religion still survived. They gathered in secrecy, small fanatical sects that worshipped Darth Sidious and Vader as living gods. Among these groups rose a new creed. They recited the Sith Code as scripture, studied fragments of holocron scavenged from the Old Republic era, and prayed that one among them might be found worthy of elevation. From that faith came Naman Cha, the most gifted of their acolytes, and the cult believed the one destined to be recognized as a true Sith Lord. He did not despise the Empire as many Dark Jedi did, he adored it. To him, the Emperor and his apprentice were the purest expressions of the dark side of the Force at its perfect level. The Master and the Enforcer, creation and destruction. Naman Cha dreamed not of overthrowing them, but of proving himself worthy to serve at their side. This is his story, a chronicle reconstructed from Imperial fragments and whispers in the Force. The tale of the Dark Jedi who worshipped the Sith so completely that they were forced to destroy him. The Dark Jedi who begged to be Lord Vader's apprentice, and Vader's shocking reaction to him. Naman Cha was not an Inquisitor nor an Emperor's hand. He was something far more rare, an independent Dark Jedi permitted to operate under Imperial sanction, but outside of Imperial control. He hunted Force sensitives, raided lost temples, and brought back relics of the ancient Empire. At times, he fought alongside Imperial troopers, though he loathed their company. To him, they were useful tools, not comrades, blunt instruments who polluted the purity of his mission with the bureaucracy and fear of an empire that did not deserve the Sith as their rulers. Naman Cha preferred to hunt alone, moving through war zones and ruins like a ghost in black robes, his twin lightsabers flashing through the smoke. He wielded the art of Jar Kai, the dual-bladed principle once practiced by the greatest duelists of the Old Republic. Jar Kai was a rare form that demanded total control of motion and of mind. Few could maintain its balance, one saber for precision, the other for offense, a constant shifting of rhythm that turned combat into a storm of blades. Cha mastered it with obsession. He fought with surgical aggression, overwhelming opponents with speed while leaving no opening in defense. A dancer's grace married to a zealot's fury. His hunts often ended with the same result: silence and ruin. Rebel outposts, Jedi survivors, and Force cults vanish under his blade. To the Empire he was useful, to the dark side he was devoted. And the Sith knew it. Vader and Sidious were aware of Naman Cha's existence. They saw in him the same flaw that had destroyed countless acolytes before: faith without understanding. But that faith could be weaponized. So they allowed him to believe that he was chosen. They sent coded message through intermediaries, commending his devotion, hinting that he may someday be tested. It was all a calculated cruelty meant to feed his ego and ensure his obedience. For years he served in blind reverence, convinced that each success brought him closer to recognition. Then came the order that would decide his fate. Darth Vader summoned Naman Cha aboard the Executor. There, beneath the hum of Star Destroyer engines, he gave him a single command. A Nightsister by the name of Kyrissa had been exiled from the world of Dathomir. She had attempted to seize leadership of her clan from her mother, Jeth Zarion, and in defeat, was cast out. Intelligence suggested that she had survived a crash on the frozen world of Hoth, and built a domain among its beasts. Vader ordered Cha to find her and eliminate her before her power could spread. To most, it would have been a death sentence, but to Naman Cha, it was destiny. He saw the order as a test from the Dark Lord himself, proof that he had been noticed. He vowed to succeed or die to prove his worth. On the frozen world, when his shuttle descended to Hoth, the storm seemed to welcome him. Across the plains he found bones arranged in circles, runes burned into the ice. The air was alive with invisible threads of power, the psychic residue of a power that he did not fully comprehend. This was not the dark side as the Sith wielded it. This was Nightsister magic. It fascinated him. Kyrissa had survived, but more than that, she had thrived. On the world of endless cold, she had extended her mind into the wild. Kyrissa bent the Wampas to her will, bred monstrous hybrids of fur and claw, and built a fortress of frozen metal from her ship's wreckage. Through the dark side, she controlled them utterly, shaping them into extensions of herself. She was the queen of a dead world, ruling a kingdom of beasts. Naman Cha approached not as a hunter, but as a pilgrim first. He could feel the dark side radiating from the citadel that she had built. Deep, powerful. Here was the power beyond inquisitorial science or military might. primal, unrestrained darkness. Cha believed that if he destroyed her, Vader would name him Sith. He believed he was acting out of prophecy. When the witch emerged flanked by her creations, the world seemed to hold its breath. Her voice was carried on the wind, cold, commanding, alive with hatred. Cha ignited his lightsabers first and advanced. The battle that followed was one of the most savage clashes ever recorded between Force wielders outside of the rule of two. Kyrissa had constructed her own lightsaber long ago, learned to practice it in secret away from her Nightsister clan. But that era was over. She had become something different, something worse. She no longer moved in harmony with nature. She bent it to her will and her desire. The duel was brutal. Lightning tore through the sky. Creatures screamed and fell as crimson blades slashed through fur and flesh. Cha moved with perfect Jarkai form and technique, each lightsaber a blur of motion, deflecting claws, striking, parrying, flowing like a current of energy. Kyrissa countered with bursts of telekinetic force, of waves of mental domination, her will reaching through the beasts to attack him from all sides and all vectors. It is said that for hours they fought amid shattered glaciers, their power echoing through the force. When finally Kyrissa fell to her knees, the ground blackened by heat and by blood. Nam and Cha stood over her, sabers crossed. He waited for the dark side to whisper its judgment, and in that silence, he made a choice. He saw Kyrissa not as a rival, but as a revelation, proof that the dark side still held mysteries even the Sith had forgotten, and he deactivated his blades. You are strength, exiled by the weak. Serve me, and together we will perfect the Sith's vision. Kyrissa looked up through the falling snow, her lips curved in a strange smile. The dark side serves neither of us, she said, but it will teach if you are willing to learn. And so the Witch of Hoth became his apprentice. For weeks they meditated in the frozen tundra, fusing Sith discipline with Dathomiri magics. Nam and Cha learned her methods of animal control, her rituals of creation through suffering. In return, he taught her the precision of lightsaber combat, the philosophy of the Sith. Together they sought to combine their arts into something new. Nam and Cha recorded his discoveries in encrypted fragments later recovered by Imperial agents. The Sith were right to fear passion. It is creation itself. Through Kyrissa I see the path, power made pure. The Dark Lords will see us, and know that we are their reflection. But the Sith already knew. They were not a reflection, they were an insult. Lord Vader felt the disturbance like a blade drawn across his back. Two darkside presences bound together, master and apprentice, mimicking the ancient bond that belonged only to the Sith. And what made his anger boil wasn't their presumption, it was their corruption. Nam and Cha no longer simply imitated the Sith, he was rewriting them. Through the witch's teachings, he had begun to fuse the philosophies of Dathomir and Korriban, twisting Sith discipline into a hybrid creed of passion and primal magic. He saw no blasphemy in it, only an evolution. In Nam and Cha, he had discovered what the Sith had lost, creation through will, control through unity. He believed that he was on the threshold of true Dark Lordship. He believed the Force itself had chosen him. He was wrong. When news of this union reached Coruscant, at first Sidious said nothing. He merely smiled, an amused, weary smirk beneath the hood. "Send no words," he murmured, "only a reminder." That reminder would take the shape of Lord Vader. Vader did not need a second command. Shuttles seemed to arrive on Hoth with a bitter silence. No sound, no light. No lightning split the sky, no thunder followed, but across the frozen plains, every creature began to stir. The beast Kyrissa had ruled with will felt it first. Their minds twisted into a panic, their obedience collapsed into a terror. They ran, massive shadows scattering into the distance, abandoning their mistress and her new master. Within the citadel, Kyrissa froze mid-sentence as the dark side itself grew heavy. Nam and Cha fell silent beside her. The Force had changed around them, no longer the cold serenity of a storm, but a suffocating pressure that made their bones feel hollow. It pressed inward, stealing breath, crushing thought. Then, beyond the horizon came the sound. The ice cracked, mountains groaned and split open as though the planet itself attempted to retreat. Thin fractures raced across the frozen plains, veins of shadow spreading from a single point. The place where the shuttle was now descending through the ice. Each moment tightened the invisible noose around the Dark Jedi. The closer the ship came, the heavier the air grew. Every breath became labor. When the ramp lowered, Darth Vader stepped into the icy tundra. The snow seemed to refuse to touch him, to recoil. The air seemed to pull away from his armor. He walked forward, black against the endless white. There were no words, no pretense, only the steady rhythm of his respirator, the heartbeat of the dark side. Naman Cha fell to one knee. "My lord," he said, trembling, "what we have done, it is for the glory of the Sith. We have restored what was lost. We are the future of your order." Vader's visor reflected him like a mirror, a perfect void. And through that reflection, Cha finally understood what he had become. A parody of power standing before the real thing. Vader did not speak. He raised one hand. The fortress shook. Walls cracked, splinters of ice bursting outward. The ground beneath them split wide, fissures running in every direction. Kyrissa screamed, clutching her head as the dark side itself seemed to rip the breath from her lungs. Naman Cha staggered to his feet and ignited his lightsabers, the red light blazing in defiance. He shouted over the roar of the collapsing citadel. This was no rebellion. This was devotion. I have brought the Force into balance. I have become... Vader moved forward. No speech, no threat, only movement. The sound of his steps drowned out everything else. Steady, mechanical, unstoppable. Naman Cha raised his twin sabers, his breath trembling, the storm whipping around him. For the briefest instant, he believed he could still prove himself worthy. He shifted into his Jarkai stance, but Darth Vader did not slow. He walked straight into Cha's guard, and then, a flicker of red. The lightsaber ignited mid-swing, its crimson edge bursting to life as it passed through the Dark Jedi. The strike was one motion, clean, effortless, and silent. The hum of the blade was the only sound. Naman Cha froze in place. A red glow burned across his torso. Then his body slid apart, collapsing to the ice in two halves, the snow instantly blackening beneath him. Vader stood over the body, motionless, his saber retracted with a hiss, the light dying as if it had never been. Kyrissa was still kneeling nearby, her hands still clutching her skull as if attempting to hold her mind together. She looked up, face streaked with tears and frost, horror dawning in her eyes. Vader turned towards her, his tone low, venomous. "My master once sought to purge your species. It appears that he failed. But perhaps one more will lead to your pale imitation's demise. You are not as satisfying as a Jedi," he said, voice rising over the storm. "But your death will serve the same purpose." With that, Vader reached out through the Force. Kyrissa's scream choked and stopped as her neck snapped under invisible hands. Her body folded, lifeless beside her master. Vader did not watch. He turned and walked back towards the shuttle, each step final and deliberate. The wind closed the ruin behind him until no trace remained of the heresy. When Vader returned to the Emperor, their exchange was brief. "The pretenders are gone," he said. "The dark side remains pure." Sidious smiled, that slow, hollow smile that revealed nothing but satisfaction. He offered no praise, no acknowledgement, only silence. To him, it was nothing more than the natural order. Pretenders rise, the Sith consume. But those who still whispered in the forgotten corners of Imperial archives, the names of Naman Cha and Kyrissa carry weight, half myth, half warning. Naman Cha was a Dark Jedi who believed that he could become a Dark Lord. She was a witch who believed she could rule beasts and men alike. Both were devoured by the power they idolized. Their story would be erased from official record, but the Force remembers. When the wind howls across the frozen plains of Hoth, it is said that two voices still echo in the storm. One pleading for power, the other for mercy. But deeper than the ice itself there is a truth, one that neither understood. There can only be one master and one apprentice. In the archives of the Empire, Naman Cha's story ends there, recorded only as a loyal Dark Jedi operative who subdued a Nightsister on Hoth before he vanished. What makes both Naman Cha and Kyrissa fascinating and tragic is that they were pure. They were organic darkside adepts in an age ruled entirely by a Sith hierarchy. They were not inquisitors, molded and broken by the Empire's machine. They weren't creations of Vader or Sidious, Emperor's hands, or secret apprentices. They were born of real obsession, homegrown believers in the dark side who sought its power not because they were ordered to, but because they naturally hungered for it. Nam Cha would never be a Sith, but he wanted to be. He worshipped Vader. He idolized the Sith of legend. He believed that if he proved himself in the field, he hunted enough Jedi, unearthed enough relics, or took an apprentice of his own that he could earn that title. But he mistook fascination for understanding. He was the kind of man who swore the team would win all state if he'd only been allowed to start, blind to how far beneath the true masters he really was. And when Vader arrived, the illusion shattered. One strike, a single moment of clarity, Nam Cha finally understood how small he truly was. The Empire erased his name after that, but the Force remembered him. A Dark Jedi who dreamed of becoming a Lord of the Sith, only to learn too late that dreaming is not enough, because in the age of Vader, power does not ask, it takes. Not every detail of this story survives in the archives. Parts are fact, others are fragments. But that's what makes the dark corners of the Star Wars galaxy so fascinating. Nam Cha may be little more than a shadow in the records, but shadows are where Star Wars legends are born. And now, my friends, what are your thoughts on these extremely rare variants of Dark Jedi in an extremely rare era for Dark Jedi to emerge? Nam Cha and Kyrissa. As always, thank you so much for joining us in our archives here today, and may the Force be with you.